Hey, it's good to be back in our Going Deeper podcast, and I'm excited about our conversation today. So we started this new series last week, Broken Before God, A Path to Wholeness. We're going to be looking at the different Psalms, so 5 different Psalms over the coming weeks. And last week, the message was on Psalm 6, and I honestly thought that I thought it was going to be a tough message, and I didn't really know how it would be received, right? But it's been pretty amazing, some of the feedback that we've gotten and how it's impacted people's lives. And we've got some questions today that I want us to wrestle with, if y'all want to. So let's just jump right in. Here's the first one that I want us to talk about. One of the questions we got was, if God already knows what I'm feeling, why do I need to pray about it? God already knows what I'm feeling. Why do I need to pray about it? And I think, I think sometimes our need to just name things in our life is the first step to really dealing with them. And so part of what prayer does is it helps us to really just name, I feel this way, this is a problem, this is an issue in my life. And when we name it, we claim it kind of thing, that's when we can work through it.
True, I agree. So many times I don't want to, I just want to pray in generalities, and until I get specific and I understand what I'm wrestling with, the restlessness will subside, even if the prayer hasn't been answered. It'll be like, okay, I put it out there, and it gets me to start aligning with what God's sovereign will is instead of my plan.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's this, if God already knows what I'm about to pray, why would I? I think that's how I hear the question. And, but God knew you before you were born. He knows all the hairs on your head. He knows everything about your life. So you get to this point in your life, and it's like, why wouldn't you continue to lean in? And Jesus actually said this right before he taught the prayer we speak every single Sunday. He said, hey, God already knows what you need before you need it. Let me teach you how to pray. So he goes into this, our Father who art in heaven. And so there's this, absolutely, it's a question that we wrestle with sometimes, but I think that it's so clear that, man, God already knows the plan for your life, and you need to lean into that just as much as you would prayer in your life as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, because our naming it is not for God, it's really for
100%, absolutely.
Right? And so it's that, a lot of times, when in busy lives and hectic things and all things that are going on in our world, there are times where I've been praying about something and I was kind of naming my feelings in that prayer to then come to this revelation that, oh my goodness, it's really what's behind door number one that's causing the real issue. And so then it begins to reveal things about ourselves in the process that we can then turn over to God, because the problem is that we can't, you can't deal with the problem that you're not willing to name. You can't even begin to work through that, right, and allow God to work through it for you.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, we talk about, hey, open our hearts, to the words the Lord has for us. And I think that's just part of it, is you're allowing this opening of what's going on in your life. And even though he knows it actually is a personal, decision to say, hey, I got to open my heart to the Lord in my life and pray about what he already knows is coming.
Yeah. It works that way with our kids. You think about it. There are times where our kids have done things that are not, they mess up, they do some things right. And we know it and they know it, but we still have to have this conversation about it, right? And they need to name it. And that part of that process is the process of healing and transformation that our lives go through when we come to a place. Because, y'all have heard me say it before, the greatest human superpower is the power of justifying our behaviors. And naming it kind of calls us out in a sense of, hey, I did that, or this is me, or this is how I feel, or this is, what's going on in our life. And you really can't even begin to move beyond what you're praying about until you're willing to and honest enough with yourself to confess it and say, this is what's happening.
Yeah, and I love the patience of the Lord in that. He just says, yeah, no, that's not it. It's a little deeper. No, that's not it. I mean, just with our kids, our spouses, it's like, what is the matter? And there's many times I'll look at Michael and go, I don't know. Give me some time.
Yeah, right.
And it does take that patience of saying, okay, yeah, it's not about that, but it's back here. And so the patience of the Lord is so good of saying, come on, come a little closer. Let's go deeper. And so it's a trust issue a lot of times of saying. So sometimes when it's rock bottom, it's because there's outside circumstances and clearly what it is. But that recurring ick or itch or something that just keeps coming up going, why am I responding like that?
Yes, right.
He's like, there's something deeper.
Part of our following the Lord has to do with confession. And so when you ask the question, if God already knows what I'm feeling, why do I need to pray about it? And part of that process with the Lord is confession of how I'm feeling. Not necessarily to say that how you're feeling is a sin, it's just, but it's part of that process that we have to go through, right? There's another question here that's, what were the 4 ways praying during suffering shapes us? And can y'all elaborate on each of these? And so the 4 ways were drives us to God, reveals our dependence, produces humility, and then deepens our faith. And the kind of thinking through that and studying that, what do you want to call it? It really came from, and I talked about it just a little bit in a statement where that statement that we often hear pastors make or people make, where they say, prayer doesn't always change our circumstance, but it always changes us. And I never really liked that. It just seemed like, at first, one of those pastor cop-outs, right? Just something that, prayer doesn't always change your circumstances, but it always changes you. So I then started looking at, the scripture and like, what? And then it became very clear, right? And to me, and there's probably 15 of these, but I just came up with 4. And you think about the circumstances of our life, especially when you run out of, you're kind of at the end of your rope, right? And it always, it should always drive us to God, right? I'll keep doing, and even I know this doesn't work. I'll keep trying to do it my way, praying about it a little bit on the side, but and then you get to a point where you go, Lord, I'm like scared now, and it drives us towards Him, right? And I know that all of us, on some level, have been in that place before, where you just the circumstance of your life just kind of puts you in a place where, where we should turn to God first. Oftentimes we turn to Him last. He's the last resort instead of our first resort, first step. And so those times of spiritual anguish that we talked about, the circumstances that we face that causes those, should drive us to God.
Yeah, I think about that, and I attach the back part of the message, the title of the message, "Path to Wholeness." And you think about, what makes you, what would make us whole, and it's alignment with our Creator. And so the only way to get to wholeness is full alignment with our Creator. And so you talk about the first thing of driving us to God. We get to this spot of brokenness in our life. And the only way we can get to anything beyond brokenness is to actually be driven towards the Creator of who we are. And so anything outside of that, you're still going to feel brokenness. There's going to be a part of your life that's not complete. And it's because, the Creator of everything that we are and everything who we're going to be.
That's right.
Everything, every feeling that we have, every thought that we have, there's going to be a piece of brokenness until you're driven to the Lord in your life. And that is where wholeness can come from.
Well, and that's a great point, because what we often do is we turn to things or people to try to
That's right.
fix that which can't be fixed that way, right?
That's right.
And so all that these things should, in fact, drive us to a deeper relationship with Jesus.
Yeah, and I think that's what wisdom is, or, the next three things of those four you brought out. Wisdom is going there first. It's like, I know this in my mind, but your heart can't go there first. But even if it's something that you've done 100 times, it's driven you to the Lord, maybe that 101st you'll be like, I'm going to start here.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I really do believe. You take experience and knowledge and you move on it. I think that's wisdom. But I love that it makes us more humble. It's like, Lord, I can't do this. That's why I think the obvious things are the ones that drive us to the Lord first. Think the extreme.
That's right.
It's like, I have no place else to look but up. Yeah. I have to turn to you but it's the subtle things over time that just chip away at our relationship with him.
So it produces humility, right? And so how does the spiritual anguish and difficult circumstances that we walk through, how does that break the pride in us and humble us? What does that look like?
Well, if you have one more than one child, let's put it this way. I can't take too much credit for the one who just is innately obedient. And then I can't take too much, I shouldn't heap on quite so much guilt for the one who's the most rebellious. I still can parent them similarly, but it humbles me to have said, Lord, you've made them like this. Now I need to shepherd them and teach them, and they're entrusted to me as one of their parents. But I think it drives us to humility of like, I am not in control here.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things that you can ever say is, I can't.
Yeah.
And so when you get to a spot of I can't, you need to humble yourselves to who can. And it's not a what can, it's a who. And so that's the humility part that, I know a lot of guys I talk to, and I always pick on me, right? So I have to get to a spot in my life at times that says, I can't fix, I can't change, I can't solve, I can't. And the humility to actually find out the direction, which is the Lord in my life, right? And that's the wisdom, as Gaylyn talked about, that's needed. But the humility starts first. It's this recognition of I can't on my own, but together we can. That's the humility part. That's a hard one.
We talked about David, right? And it's the story of David and Bathsheba, and he's the king. He's at the time probably the strongest, greatest ruler on the planet, most powerful guy, right, in many ways. And here he's lusted after Bathsheba, had her husband killed so that he could have her to himself. And he's just rocking along. And then Nathan comes in and points out his sin. And he had to deal with, right? And so anytime when sin is presented to us, whether that be the conviction of a Holy Spirit or someone who we've allowed to be in an accountability position with us, we really have two steps. It's the step of pride that just says, no, I'm that's not me, all the things. So you can either take a step of pride or you can take a step of humility. And in order to receive, in order to accept, in order to claim what you've done, it takes humility, because a lot of times, let's just be honest, we start going, well, man, I was doing the best I could do, and she shouldn't have been walking around on top of her roof like that. That wouldn't have thought. We start making up all these reasons why what happened, and it's really not our fault, and that's the pride place. But in David's case, it hit him like, I can only imagine what that moment would have been like well, bam, and it just humbled him. It broke him down, and he recognized that, that, man, I have sinned, and my sin wasn't against. My sin was
right
against God, and so those moments, whether it's something whether it's something we can't fix or this sin that we've been confronted with, they can really get you.
They can really get you. Yeah. Back to your point about our children. That's why I think that conversation is so essential. You are that man. You were the kid. You are the person.
Yeah, right.
And then talking to them about it, but they have to get to the end of themselves. We have to get to the end of ourselves so that we're like, I'm not trying to manage this. I'm not trying to deflect it or defend myself or any of that. And it's like, some things will, what does he say in James 4:10? Humble yourself before the Lord and I will lift you up. Yeah. And I think he's sometimes saying, look, you can bend your knee or I'll bend your knee for you. And so I'm going to drive you to your knees in that. So the humility, you said, when it comes first.
Well, and the scripture says pride comes before the fall.
Yes.
It does.
And so those prideful only leads us down it's pride towards the land of destruction or humility towards the land of wholeness, right? And so all of us, if we're going to grow spiritually, especially, it requires humility for us to be. It takes humility for us to say, Jesus, you're Lord of my life,
right.
And to submit and to sit under that lordship takes humility for every believer. Right? Let's go to the next.
Let me just add this. So then, when you're interacting in your relationships with those who don't know Jesus yet, it's exasperating they can't be driven to the Lord. They don't know who can.
Right.
They're not choosing to look up. They're not looking at that. So I just think that's another part when it's like maddening at times, but at the same time, compassionate. Like you don't know a Lord and Savior yet. So.
Well, yeah, that's right. And just to finish that thought of this, when we step into humility, it's the Lord who raises us up. You think about it, do I want to raise myself up or do I want God to raise me up? And we would all say, well, God, of course. But there's a process to that, right?
Right, absolutely.
Another one that we talked about, one of the third of the four, was reveals our dependence. So we're in a time of anguish, spiritual suffering, battle, tough circumstance. We're praying and we're asking God to reveal Himself to us in the midst of, whatever it is that we're walking through. And I don't know, what y'all's story has been, but mine has been in many ways where I come to this place where those moments reveal my dependence on God, right? We've talked about it till we're blue in the face, but the one that just always pops out in my mind is our whole denominational issue, right? We were completely dependent on the Lord as a people every step of the way. When we went through COVID and just all the things that we did as a staff, and we were dependent on the Lord all the way through it. When you get a diagnosis whether it's for you or someone you love, you recognize in that moment, I am not in control of this. I cannot fix this issue. I can't by myself fix my marriage. I can't. And wisdom again says, Lord, you're everything I need, right? And when you think about, what the Lord allows us to go through. He's not the author of chaos. He doesn't cause pain in our life. He's not the author of sickness and disease or whatever. But he allows us to go there because the greatest moment that you and I can have is the moment where we realize we're insufficient. It's a win versus remember what Paul said, or what Jesus said to Paul, why are you kicking against the goads, right? We try to hammer it out and just keep on doing and keep on doing. And I don't know, the more I keep on doing it, the worse my situation generally gets.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the reveal part. One of the easiest prayers, well, maybe for me, that I can pray is, Lord, help me see the things you want me to see. So that's this, hey, reveal to me the things that you want me to see in my life. And it's just this, it reveals our dependence on God. And so if you pray that prayer over and over and over again, I believe that you'll begin to see the things that he wants you to see in your life. And it's not that he wants you to stay broken. It's not that he wants you to stay in sin. He wants you to see a better version. And there's this revelation that happens when you constantly ask to see what he wants you to see.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah. Dependence on him is just, again, I go back to the same thing. I'm at the end of myself, Lord. And I want to say that earlier, but my most powerful prayers are always help me.
Yeah. And we, as pastors, we walk with people through very difficult seasons. And generally, the thing that I've seen over these years is that people go one of two directions. They keep charting their own course and doing their own thing that ultimately leads them to a place of anger and bitterness and frustration and brokenness, leaving the church, just leaving faith. That's a way, or this other way that goes, Lord, I'm going to trust you in this. And I recognize in my life my own shortfalls and shortcomings and all my issues, and I'm just going to trust you. And this path leads to more brokenness, and this path leads to wholeness and healing, right, in a greater place. And so, which leads us to the last one, and that is it. So we said it drives us to God, it reveals our dependence, it produces humility, then the last part, it deepens our faith. And, when you come out on the other side and you look back and you go, I know y'all said it before like me, I don't ever want to do that again. I don't ever want to walk through that again. But I'm so thankful for what the Lord taught me in the midst of that. And people say, what does that mean when you say that? It means that God stripped away some things in my life. He showed me some things about myself. And I have this newfound peace because of a change that's taken place in me because of it. And because of that, I have a deeper, more robust faith. And maybe, Garth Brooks used to sing that song, Thank God for Unanswered Prayers. There's some prayers that I'm glad he didn't answer.
Oh, same.
They'd have been bad.
Yeah.
Right?
I should not have married that person I prayed for. He protected me.
Yeah, right.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's good.
So you just those are you just it's hard to explain but you feel like that if there's a meter of faith growing stronger, it's being delivered through challenging times and understanding more about ourselves and walking in humility with the Lord. That I believe meter goes up more, right? It changes, who we are from the inside out. Let's take one quick. There was one more. Well, there's several, but let's kind of take a minute and answer this question each. How has suffering shaped your own prayer life? That was a good question. How has suffering shaped your own prayer life?
I didn't know we were going to get that personal when I showed up. No, but that's actually a really great question because it is personal. I think it's caused me to be super specific instead of being really vague. And so the more that I can kind of get a little bit closer to speaking specifically and asking for specific items, it actually it draws me a little bit closer to the Lord in my life, and it causes more humility in my life. So I would say that the suffering that's taken place in my life forces me to be specific with the Lord, and whether it's me or it's the situation, it just pushes me to be specific about it.
Yeah, I'm not a verbal processor, and I work with verbal processors, and so I need time to sit with the Lord and say, because
You work with a verbal processor.
I work with several, but yes, one I report to. But so for me, it is that, Lord, I am feeling this weight. I'm feeling restless. I'm out of sorts. I can't hear you, and whatever it is. And peel it all back, and allowing him to peel it back. My dependence on him is so great, because if I do that by myself, it's always like, something that I can go and fix, or I think I can, or manage or something. But my dependence on him is the quicker I get to that spot where I'm like, and it doesn't mean like I got to go light a candle and have a, steaming cup of something, or, sit there like that. It's literally 10 seconds. Lord, where are you in this place? Where are you in this situation? Lead me right there. So my dependence is, it could be a crowded room, and I'll be like, I know you're here. I just can't find you.
Yeah.
And lead me to where you are, so that I'll have your peace and I'll have your assurance, and I'll think before I speak.
That's good.
For me, it is being more honest with what's going on. Even recently, I've prayed a prayer where I'm like, Lord, I'm really mad about this. Like, Lord, what I'm really feeling is not praying for somebody. What I'm really feeling is headlock and throat punch, right? And I actually said something similar to that. I can't remember, but just to kind of lay it out there, and really David teaches me that. Because he's very specific, and he lets it all kind of hang out there, and so just being very honest about things, and just trying to get there about myself. It's very difficult to go, hey, this is who I am, right? I did this. I'm feeling this, whatever it is. And I've talked to one of my friends, a friend that y'all know, and it was Will Mancini, and I said, "Hey, Will, I was sharing with him something." He goes, "Yeah, that's you," and I went,
"You are that man." It was a Nathan moment,
right?
And yeah, and one of the thing that I don't know that I told y'all this, but the thing that really got me, and I appreciate my friend being this honest with me, and he said, "Jody, you've acted a little entitled." Wow. I was like, dang, that was rough. But I thought about it, and I went, I did that. I wasn't meaning to. I didn't want to, but I did that. And then I had to go back and go, Lord, I did not even realize what I was doing, and I'm sorry. Forgive me. And please don't, there's many more times, and y'all know this, where I did it I continue to do it the wrong way more than the right way. But it's only in those moments where we are that honest with ourselves that real change begins to happen, right? And it's just it's a process too. Mm-hmm. For sure, but that's the way the prayer in these types of situations have really when you're in spiritual anguish, has changed how I pray. And there's even some times where recently where I did something new, and it's just kind of a spontaneous thing where I just started. I did a little dot or whatever you call it, and then I write 2 or 3 words like angry, upset, to describe it. Put it in my little journal, kind of like what you got there, Matt. And I'm not a everyday journaler. It's sporadic. I don't hold myself to any kind of everyday thing. But I went back even for this sermon, and actually I think I have them on this paper.
You said it in the sermon on Sunday. You said these are bullet points from my personal journal.
Yeah. God doesn't care. If he really loved me, he wouldn't allow this to happen. Or I go, God doesn't want to hear me complain. My faith should be stronger than it is, or I need to get my act together before I pray. And so I know as a pastor that I don't have to get my act together before I pray. I know that backwards, forwards, sideways. But I was actually doing the thing that I knew I wasn't supposed to do. And that goes back to our first question of why you have to put a name to it, because it's not until you name it that when life's busy and fast and you think you think it's over here when really it's this thing right in front of you, and you didn't realize it was there the whole time. It's not till you put words to that some real change can happen. And so as we close, I guess what I would say to those who'll be listening is that until you get to a place where you can say, like Jacob in our last sermon series, or David right in this series, and it's in every one of these guys' lives all the way through the scripture, right? Until we can get to a place where we can name it and claim it, and not just name it, but admit it, claim it.
That's right.
Yeah.
You'll stay stuck in a rut for a long period of time. And that cycle, right? And all of us want the Lord to, we would all say, man, I want Jesus to change me. Well, let me tell you how that works, right?
Yeah, I mean, we all have brokenness in our lives, every single one of us. And today's the day that you can start the path. But it's by naming it, by claiming it, like you said, and there's a path to wholeness. Mm-hmm. But you actually have to start the path. And I think you just start sooner rather than later. And it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be, just rainbows and stickers, as my kids used to say. But it's going to be really, really great. Yeah.
And it is exactly. It's a path, so you have to take a step.
That's right.
Well, we've gone deeper today for sure, right? And so look forward to our next podcast. If you have questions that you want to give or send to us, there's going to be an email address on the bottom. Nick, what is it? Going deeper at mountbethel.org. And so you can send your question there, and on our next podcast, we will try to talk about your question. And so thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time.